back. Hey, welcome back. Happy New Year. Welcome. This is Christina with Read.Pray.Disney. If you're new to the channel, hey, how's it going? Today's video, we're going to go ahead and get into it. So again, welcome to all of those who are new to the channel. Hi, welcome. How you doing? On this channel, we like to do all things Disney, from planning to books to pens and all kinds of stuff, Disney stuff. So welcome. All right, so for today's video, we have Kingdom Keepers. Remember, I told you guys before that I was going to, in my last book video, I told you that I was going to get into Kingdom Keepers, and I did, and let's talk about it. Okay. I guess you can tell by my tone in my face that this is a middle grade book. It's not a young adult book. This is a middle grade book. So it's Kingdom Keepers by Ridley Pearson. And I'm gonna finish it because I'm doing the video on it. And I think what we're gonna do is doing this in 3 parts instead of going chapter by chapter. I'm just gonna sum it up within 3 episodes, okay? Because this is a relatively quick read, okay? So let's talk about this. This book takes place, I picked it up because I wanted to, this book takes place in Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. So that's my home park. I haven't been to any other park. So this takes place in Walt Disney World. So I figured, I was like, oh, well, this would be pretty cool to kind of read how a story runs through Disney World and all the parks there, and just kind of have that connection, which you do for the most part as they're running around and doing things. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been down, that way before. I've seen that. I didn't realize there could be a door there. So just a side note, Ridley Pearson, when he wrote this book, and he writes, there's like 3 or 4 more books in this series. And he has a couple of other series centered around Disney World and so forth. But he actually was able to take a backstage, like real backstage tour through Disney World, like everywhere through Disney World when getting information for these books, for the book series. So and we know that because he kind of thanks the guy up in the beginning about that and the acknowledgments and so forth, his guides. But anywho, okay. So this story is about 5 kids, primarily 5 kids. They are called DHIs, which are Disney Holographic Interactive Host things. Something, I think I got the acronym right. And essentially, they're holographic hosts, okay? So our 5 characters, our main character is Lord Finn. Finn is our main character. And essentially what happens is, and we'll just start up in the beginning. So essentially what happens is Finn, in the beginning chapters, he goes into this dream. He's sleeping and he walks into this dream, and he's in Disney World, and he's walking around, and he's like, hey, this is Disney at night, but something seems off, right? And so he meets Wayne, and Wayne is this older guy, like old guy, who lives in the park. Okay. So Wayne is this old Imagineer who lives in a park, and he says like, hey, I've been waiting for you. You're the one, kind of thing. And Finn's like, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm a one? So evidently there is this fable that it's called the Stonecutter's Quill. So there's this fable that there's something magical happening in the parks at night. Evidently, the park is coming alive at night, and through the magic of Disney and the imagination of everyone, that's kind of cultivated this magic of itself, and this magic comes alive at night. And right now it's the villains or the overtakers that are coming to life, and they're doing things in the park at night. But it's not only bringing the villains alive, it's bringing all of the things in the parks alive, all the animatronics and things like that. So so after park closing, these things supposedly happen. And so these DHIs, and then evidently the Stonecutter's Quill leads to, there's a puzzle that they have to solve in order to understand what's happening at night. Because essentially, if they don't get it under control and they don't figure out what's going on, the Disney villains are going to take over the world. So y'all remember that show a while ago? It was like Save the Cheerleader, Save the World. This is that. Save Disney, Save the World. So big story short, that's what's happening. So essentially, the DHIs, what happens is in the world of these kid hosts. So what Disney has done, and what I'm thinking is happening, the reason why Disney created these DHI positions, so they're holograms that when you walk around the park, they're tour guides and they point and they talk to different things, but they're these kids. They're exact carbon copies of these kids, 5 particular kids. And when you go around any park, especially Magic Kingdom, they're tour guides and they're very, very popular. And they walk you through the parks, okay? So Disney created these to do that, but I think the Imagineers knew that something was happening in the parks and they needed these kids to kind of figure this stuff out. So that's why they kind of pseudo created this DHI system as tour guides. Because what happens is the kids, when they went in, they got into this contraption or whatever, and it's melded their mind to the DHI. So the DHI hosts, they're interactive. You can talk to them, you can ask them questions. They're not animatronic, and they're not robotic in response. You can talk to them, you ask questions. They are the kids, just in hologram form. So the kids were paid for this. And what this means is that the kids can't go to the parks at the same time as their DHI. They have to request a special pass. Because Disney, true to form, and their Disney magic, they don't want people to think, oh, this DHI is here, but then there's a real kid. But plot hole, these kids are real people and they still go to school. And then when they go to school, all the schoolmates know that they're DHIs. So what does it matter? But okay. All right. So anywho, what happens is Finn figures out that when he falls asleep, that he gets transported into Disney World in his pseudo DHI form. So he's kind of human and kind of DHI. So he goes into Disney World and he sees all these characters. Wayne is there and Wayne can't see any characters. He knows that the characters are coming to life, but he can't see them. Only the DHIs can, or not the DHIs, only the kids that were DHIs can. And so Wayne tells him that all 5 kids need to be together in order to solve this puzzle. So Finn decides to take it upon himself because Wayne calls him the leader. He takes him upon himself to, when he wakes up back up into the real world, he goes to find all of these friends, or all of these other kids, the 4 other kids. So Wayne, So Amanda, or let me back up, sorry. So Finn goes back to school and he tells his best friend Dillard about it. And Dillard's like, oh my gosh, this can't be real. And all of a sudden this girl Amanda pops up out of nowhere. She's a transfer to school and he knows, everybody kind of knows who Amanda is because her parents work for MGM. That's how old this story is, which is Hollywood Studios now, but MGM. And the story was written, when was this written? This was written back in, let me see. Because they call MGM, they call Hollywood Studios MGM, they call it back in 2005, copyright 2005. They reference Toontown. So anywho, so at school, Finn finds Amanda. Amanda kind of not inserts herself, not yet. Finn ropes Amanda in to get him into Magic Kingdom. Now, this is again another plot hole because we know that Finn can't go to the parks because he needs special permission, but he doesn't want to tell his family because he has to get special permission through his family to Disney. So he has Amanda, because her family works for Disney, then they get passes. So she gets some passes and she takes him to Magic Kingdom. And then they have this whole chapter about how he runs into his own DHI and other DHIs and how he has to run through Magic Kingdom and run through the Emporium and down Main Street and he sees Wayne, and Wayne's like, no, you gotta go. And it's all weird how they end up in Haunted Mansion and they have to run through the Haunted Mansion backstage of the Haunted Mansion ride because our author was able to go backstage on all the rides and everything. So they do this whole run scene just to leave Magic Kingdom to take a bus over to MGM Studios. Again, Hollywood Studios. Why even go to Magic Kingdom to begin with if where you needed to be was MGM? So the reason why Finn wanted to go to MGM or to Disney to find, because he wants to find out through the Imagineers if he can get the names and addresses of the other 4 DHIs. So they run into Brad. I want to say his name is Brad or Bert. I want to say it's Brad. They run into Brad, which is the Imagineer that created the DHI system or program. And Brad is like, I can't help you, you know, but then he looks at Amanda and he's like, you seem familiar. And she's like, and she changes the subject. So Amanda is 100% sus because she keeps inserting herself into this whole thing. Finn has decided to tell her everything, but not tell his best friend Dillard about this. I don't know. But Amanda's really sus because when Finn says he knows Wayne, she's like, Wayne, not Gretzky. Why am I thinking Gretzky? Wayne, whatever his last name is. She's like, oh, isn't he an Imagineer? How did you know? Like, it's just weird stuff that she says. So 100% believe Amanda is here's my take. I think Amanda was probably the first DHI. And she's not a real kid. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, because she's too vested in all of this and what's going on. Anyway, so they're going through the parks. Brad tells them, no, I can't give you the information. And essentially they end up back. They leave MGM. And again, another plot hole because you're like, okay, so why didn't they just go to MGM to the first place? You know, it's just a lot of weird. And I don't know if this is his writing style, but it's just so many things that don't make sense. Like, how did you go from this to this to this? You know, I maybe it's because it's a middle grade and the writer, Mr. Pearson, believes that maybe they don't think that well. They don't think in those terms. They just need to know the next event in the story. But for me, I'm like, something doesn't make sense. So that bothers me. Anyway, all the kids, so eventually Finn, with the help of Amanda finds all the other DHIs and all the other kids that are DHIs, and they all meet up in a chat room. So it's called Virtual Disney Kingdom, or virtual VDK, Virtual Disney Kingdom. So it's a game, but in this game it has chat rooms. And so they meet up in this chat room to talk about what's going on at Disney. And Finn explains to them, because the other kids have been experiencing the going to sleep and waking up at Disney, but they just all haven't really been there at the same time. I will take a step back. Finn ended up going with Maybeck and I want to say Willa or Philby, one of the other kids. But Finn and a couple other, the 2 of the other DHIs, they experienced the park at when they fell asleep, they experienced the park at the same time in the dream state of the park. And there was this whole shootout with the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And so the animatronics were shooting them, and evidently they found out that they are still somewhat human because he survived the shot. He got shot in his arm, and well, not like shot went through, but it was like he got shot with his arm. It grazed his arm or whatever. So he still had, it looked like a burn hole essentially. So they can be harmed while they're in this dream state, but they can still do things. Nothing magical yet. The only thing magical really that's happening in the park is that these characters are coming to life. So Wayne, the organizer of this in the parks at night, he says that, hey, and we don't really know what's Wayne's deal. Is Wayne real or is Wayne a DHI? Because he's there at night in the parks, but he can't see. So I'm thinking Wayne is a real person in the parks at night. So he can't see everything that's happening. He just knows that things are happening. Rides are being moved and stuff like that. And so anyway, ride cars are being moved and just different things are happening. Evidently, Ursula's coming to town because she's gathering up storms. Yeah, I'm waiting for all the dots to connect. So if you're lost, I'm lost too, because I'm like, okay, all this is happening, but I don't have any substance yet. But again, this is the first third of the book. So essentially, they all meet up in this chat room. Finn spills the beans. He's like, hey, you know, we got to meet, all go to sleep by 9 o'clock so we can be in Magic Kingdom at the same time to figure all of this out. And that's where we leave off, essentially. And while he's having this conversation, he's kind of shunned aside his best friend, and Amanda has asserted herself into this situation. But she doesn't want to tell everybody that she's a part of the situation either. Like, it's weird. She's sus. She's totally sus. Yeah, that's the story so far. The first third. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, instead of going from chapter to chapter, because these are relatively short chapters, but I just wanted to get you the gist of the story. You know, again, I don't know if I'm feeling this. I really don't. There's one of the things that bothers me, and I know he's writing about kids, but one of the things that bothers me about this is when he's writing Maybeck. Maybeck is a Black character, a Black guy. And the way he writes what Maybeck says, it's kind of offensive. He makes Maybeck to be like this stereotypical kid, low income, not low income, but almost poor Black kid who's like, has some street element to him. And it's just, why couldn't he talk like everybody else? Why couldn't he speak like everybody else? Like, there's some serious stereotypes happening. And again, this was written back in 2005. So I don't, and then maybe as the storyline goes on, there's more to Maybeck, but he just seems like the token Black kid. And, you know, he's like, all right, so one of the things is, okay, so what we do? I teach 8th and 9th grade. My kids don't even speak like that. You know, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. So it's like he tried too hard. He can be a Black kid without sounding the way he does. It's just weird. It's really weird. And I whatever. So, and then like one of the other girls, she's really kind of ditzy a little bit. It's just, they're all very stereotyped kids. So hopefully we get some more character development in these kids. I don't know if it's going to happen within this first book, but probably beyond the second and third book, they get more development. But I don't even know if I'm going to pick up the second and third book, to be honest. So we'll see. But that's it for this one. Let me know what you think. On a side note, I picked this book up. Now, this is not a Disney book. I picked it up based on aesthetic, and it's the Throwback List by Lily Anderson. This is a really good book. If you guys... It's about this woman who, essentially she works in Silicon Valley, but then lost everything. Not lost her, she got fired because her company merged and all that. But it's just about friendship and, you know, how people have gone their separate ways, but then things can bring them back together again. This is a really, really good read. But anywho, also, so we also picked up Skin of the Sea and Lore, and we have, if y'all remember, we have The Other of the Glass Queen. So and this was back in the Evil Queen series with Gina Showalter. So we have quite a few books to go through. These are Disney based. Well, Lore is published by Disney, but it's not a Disney book. This is wait, was this one? This one isn't Disney. No, this one was not Disney, but this was also a young edition, a young adult. Anywho, yeah, this is just Random House. But this one, the cover looked great, so I picked this one up. But anyway, we got a lot to get into, guys. Oh, goodness. This year is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. We got a lot of great reads going on. Yeah, so... as always, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this story so far. If you read this series, is it worth finishing? Tell me that. If you've read this series, is this worth finishing? Because I'm going to finish the book. I don't know if I'm going to finish the series. We'll see. But as always, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't already, hit a like and subscribe. It does really good stuff for the channel. And share. Let your friends know about what we do, what I do over here. But as always, have a magically blessed day, and I'll be praying for you. Bye.